Hello everyone, welcome to Azure Security Center in the Field, episode 34. If you are already a subscriber, thank you very much for subscribing to Microsoft Security Channel. If you are not, make sure to go to aka.ms/ASC in the field. Click subscribe, click the bell to receive notifications when we upload new videos. All right, today we are going to talk about a new workbook that we release. It's part of a Better Together story between Azure Security Center and Azure Network Security capabilities. And to talk about that, I have with me my friend Mohit Kumar. Mohit?
Hey Yuri, thanks for having me over again. Hello everyone, my name is Mohit Kumar and I'm a program manager on the customer experience engineering team for network security. I'm also a big fan of the ASC in the Field series, so I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about the new network security workbook, which can be loaded from Azure Security Center dashboard based on the new workbook option that we have on our dashboard. Now, if I'm a customer, my first question would be, why should I use this workbook? In other words, what are the use case scenarios that this workbook is trying to unblock?
Great question, Yuri. Every solution starts with a problem. So if you look at Azure, right, I mean, customers can create different types of resources which amount to different type of infrastructure and application services. And all of these resources and services and infrastructure components have some sort of a networking aspect to it, whether that's a networking endpoint or networking configuration. And today it's really hard for customers to actually visualize all of the networking and network security components in Azure in one single blade. Today you have to hop through multiple blades and multiple nodes to figure out what is the networking configuration for a single resource. And so this was the challenge that we started with. How do we bring visibility into all-up networking for all your environment for the customers? And that was the problem we were trying to solve. And so with this network security workbook, customers are able to visualize and find information about all their internal networking, their network security products that they've deployed in Azure in a single pane of glass. And so the network security dashboard becomes a single pane of glass that customers can use to visualize all of their networking assets, all of their networking configuration, and their security configuration as well.
Nice. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm assuming that in order for customers to take advantage of this workbook, they have to have some network security products. So what is the coverage of the network security products that are available on the workbook?
Yeah, another great question. So in order for customers to use this workbook, they do not have to actually be a user of one of the cloud native Azure network security products like DDoS, WAF, or firewall. If they are using DDoS, WAF, or firewall, which are cloud native, they will obviously get details of the configuration of these products. But even if they're not a user of any of these products, they can still use the workbook to visualize other network security and networking components like NSGs, load balancers, their public IPs, exposed ports, their internal networking like the VNets, the subnets, the IP ranges, the peerings they have, the traffic managers they've deployed, and also you can get details of their of your security recommendations which are coming out of ASC, which are specific to networking and network security.
Okay, all right. So there is not really a minimum set of products that they have to have.
Absolutely. If you are in Azure and you have any sort of networking in Azure, which means that you have deployed a resource like a virtual machine or an NSG or a load balancer, you would automatically be using the underlying networking service, and you can use the workbook to visualize all of that today. You don't necessarily need to be a user of the cloud native Azure network security services like Azure DDoS protection, Azure WAF, or Azure Firewall to be using this workbook.
Got it. And what is the minimum permission in order to load that workbook?
Yeah, all you need is a reader permission on the subscriptions for which you or subscriptions on which you're trying to read data from. That's all you need.
Okay, and so from the better together perspective, right? How this workbook really integrates with Security Center, besides the fact that we are opening on the Azure Security Center dashboard, there is any other integration going on?
Great question, right? So obviously, if you think about Azure Security Center, this is one place or one product that our customers use to identify their vulnerabilities and make sure that they're compliant or their resources in the environment are compliant. And so it obviously makes sense to surface network security dashboard in Azure Security Center because network security is an important or critical part of every organization's security posture. Having said that, there are other things that this workbook enables customers to do, like, for example, pull in networking and network security specific recommendations in the dashboard. So you don't have to look through all the recommendations that you might see in ASC. If you just wanted to be specific to what networking and network security recommendations you're seeing, that's available in the workbook. In future, we plan to add support for more cloud native services like PaaS services, vWAN, application security groups. That's all on our roadmap. And longer term vision for us for this workbook is to make sure that this is available out of the box in ASC. That's something that we're working on, and this is a long-term thing. Today, you can deploy the workbook from the Azure Security Center GitHub repo. Our hope is that going forward, this will be natively available within Azure Security Center.
Okay. And once I load the workbook, can I customize it if I want to add more stuff?
Oh, great question. And this is something that a lot of customers have asked when we went through a design exercise with private preview customers. Yes. So the entire workbook is basically a collection of different Azure Resource Graph queries. And so you can take the workbook, you can edit the entire workbook, you can customize any query to your liking, or you can customize all the queries to your liking to meet your specific needs. And we encourage that. We want customers to play around with the workbook, find use cases which are not covered by the workbook today, and contribute to the workbook by making a pull request to the against the workbook in the ASC GitHub repo. So the entire community can benefit from their use cases and their learnings and their work.
That's awesome. All right, so this is all good. I think we got a really good overview, but let's go to the demo and see first how to deploy and then how to use.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's start with how you can deploy the workbook. So the workbook is currently available in the Azure Security Center GitHub repo. And once you are there, you can choose one of the two buttons to deploy the workbook, either to the commercial cloud and for the Gov cloud. There are separate buttons here. So I'm going to deploy it to my commercial cloud subscription by clicking this button. And it's going to take a second. I'm going to find my resource group. I'm just going to call it the default name, next, and create. And that's how easy it is to just deploy the dashboard. You just point it to a resource group and deploy it. And it'll take a few seconds to deploy. And once it's done, I'm going to switch back and go into Azure Security Center. And once I'm in Azure Security Center blade, I'm going to go into the workbooks blade or workbooks node. And I'm going to find the workbook that I've recently deployed. So it should show up here. Oh, it takes a second. Okay, there we go. It's here now. So I'm going to click on the workbook or the network security dashboard, select the subscription, and voila. We have the workbook deployed, and it's now reading all the configuration data for all the resources, networking resources, which are currently supported in the workbook. So as you can see, there's an overview pane where you can see an all-up view of all the networking resources which are in your subscriptions, which is being read by the workbook. You have public IPs, you have NSGs, network interfaces, VNets, and all sorts of things. In terms of network security services, cloud native network security services, we have support for Azure firewalls, firewall policies, front doors, um, front door policies, and application gateways. So all sorts of things, and DDoS as well. I don't have any DDoS protection plans specifically in this subscription. That's why they're not showing up here. If you have DDoS protection plans, you will show up. They will show up in the overview tab as well. And before I move on to the different tabs, just want to quickly show you the informational options. You can click on the FAQ section and find some general information about the workbook. You can click on the survey hyperlink here to provide your feedback in terms of whether you like the workbook, what can we do to improve the workbook in future, what other products should be supported by this workbook in future. And then there's a change log here, which will show you the version of the workbook that you're running. The current version is 1.0. And coming back to what's in the workbook, so if I were to browse over and switch to the public IP and exposed ports, here there are two subgroups. The first one is public IP and asset type, and this view basically gives you all the public IP addresses you have in your environment, whether they're dynamic or static IPs, what type of resources they are associated with, whether they are not associated to a network interface, whether they are associated with load balancer or application gateways, and all that good information which is not available by default in Azure. And then moving on to ports exposed to the internet. This view basically shows you what ports you have open towards the internet, which will allow ingress traffic in your environment. As you can see, we have DNAT rules in Azure Firewall, standard and premium policy, front door rules, application gateway rules, load balancer inbound NAT rules, and NSG inbound rules. Excuse me. So all of that good stuff is exposed here, and this information is really beneficial to organizations because they're always trying to assess what their attack surface looks like, and this view gives them the ability to look at all their resources and figure out what type of ports are open inbound in their environment. And then moving on to for example, network security services, we have DDoS protection plans. As I mentioned, I don't have any DDoS protection plans. We have Azure firewalls and firewall policies. We have WAF policies all laid out here. We also have information about NSGs and their configuration. You can see that here. Moving over to internal networking, you can find a lot of detailed information about how networking is set up in your internal environment. So we have the subgroup for network interfaces, which is pulling data for all the possible network interfaces across all subscriptions that you have reader access to in this view, and you can visualize all that data from a single pane here. All the network interfaces which are public IPs. VNets, this is really important information. A lot of customers have asked for it. This view basically takes all the VNets that you have in the environment and provides you information about critical things like whether you have DDoS protection plans enabled on the VNet, what is the VNet address range, what are the subnets in the VNet, and what are the peerings for the VNet, whether they peer to any other VNet or not, and what type of peering properties are in place. You have information about all your route tables, which may be spread across different subscriptions, all the private links, and again, network security group specific information like what subnets you have, which have network security groups, and what NSGs have flow logs enabled. And then gateway and VPN services, where you can find information about your bastion hosts, VPN gateways, VNet gateways, express route circuits, and all that sort of thing. And then traffic manager information, and then security recommendations. Like I mentioned, all of this can be customized by the customers who are using it to meet their needs. They can do a pull request against the GitHub repo for the network security dashboard and contribute their changes to the community. We are, of course, looking to add support for more products in future, and that's currently work in progress. Over to you.
Yeah, no, this is great. I just want to ask one more question while we are on the demo. I noticed that when you loaded the workbook, you didn't have to select any workspace or anything. So is this information you are gathering, you are retrieving directly from Azure Resource Graph?
Great question. Yes, that's exactly the case. So this is not log data information that will come from a log analytics workspace. This is real-time configuration information which is coming from the Graph API.
Oh, that's great. So there is no requirement, like, because we have other workbooks available on Security Center that requires the workspace. This one does not. This one you just need to select the subscription, right?
Yes, absolutely. And as many subscriptions as you have reader access on, they will show up in your selector, and you can select those and visualize data for all of them.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. No, I love it. Now that's a very, very cool approach to not having to rely on the workspace, because now you can just retrieve everything from the Azure Resource Graph, and as you said, it consolidates everything in one single view. If you have multiple subscriptions, the data that shows up there corresponds to multiple subscriptions, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Mohit, that was great. Do you have any final consideration, advice that you want to give to our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I would really encourage all our customers who are using Azure Security Center to utilize the workbook. This is a great resource. It's a one-of-a-kind, unique workbook / dashboard that we have created to solve a real-world problem that customers have in terms of not being able to visualize all their networking and network security information in a single pane of glass. This is a real challenge for customers, and I've personally faced this challenge a number of times. And so really encourage all customers to utilize the workbook. There is no cost associated with it. You don't have to be a paid ASC customer to utilize the workbook. You can just deploy the workbook even if you're not using a paid version of ASC or Azure Defender. And of course, if you find things which are not supported in the workbook today, please take the time to provide feedback. If you have the inclination, please make adjustments to the workbook.
Yeah, and you're touching a good point about feedback. Should they share the feedback on the GitHub repository by writing, like a pull request with a feedback, or there is a specific form for feedback?
Yeah, so great question. So both options are available to the customers today. They can use the feedback form today and the GitHub method to actually provide feedback. Going forward, we will remove the feedback form as we are moving into more of a public available phase, and GitHub will become the primary method for customers to provide feedback and share their changes with the community.
Yeah, or you can also write it down the comments below on this video. We'll make sure to channel the feedback to Mohit and make sure that he is aware. So thanks again, Mohit, for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great being here again, and I appreciate the time, Yuri, and appreciate the audience listening in.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for your audience. Again, make sure to subscribe, aka.ms/ASC in the field. See you again next time.